Good evening, wherever you're joining us from to watch RTV News. I'm Ethan Tashoya now. We're quite going to look at a very not unique topic, but one that we look at every other year, which is looking at Rwanda's liberation journey, where we've come from, where we are, and where we're headed. Now, we should remember that 26 years ago, Rwanda was experiencing one of the worst genocides in history that left over 1 million lives died. On July 4th, 1994, Rwanda was officially liberated by the Rwanda Patriotic Front, RPF, and the nation has since experienced a turnaround in its politics and other sectors that has left the country not the same. Now, as Rwanda prepares for Kwibohora 26, we take a look at Rwanda's liberation journey thus far, and the country's politics in relation to the Rwanda or the future we want for that matter. You can be part of this discussion through our Twitter handle, which is at RBA Rwanda, or also follow the discussion live via our online platforms, our website, rba.co.rw/TV, and our YouTube channel, which is Rwanda TV. I'm not alone in this discussion, and I'm joined by legislators, but who are also seasoned politicians. And on my immediate left, Honorable Francesca Tengera, who is a member of Parliament, but also a member of the ruling RPF in Otanyi. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm also joined by MP Frank Habineza, who also happens to be the president of Democratic Green Party of Rwanda, an opposition political organization. Thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome.
And if we are able to connect from the studio via Skype, we'll be able to speak to Jacques Aigamba, who is also a genocide survivor and a consultant in human rights and development. Remember, you can be part of this discussion through our online channels. And thank you indeed for joining us. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, plus Jacques Aigamba, who's online, joining us from London, for being part of this discussion. I hope you had a good weekend.
Yes.
Now, we'll be looking at different parts of Rwanda's political spectrum. And we're looking at the constitution itself. We're looking at Rwanda's political choices. We're looking at where we are, but also trying to make sense of Rwanda's liberation journey. 26 years ago, we saw armed liberation struggle, but we've moved beyond that to economic struggle, to making sure that the people are being liberated from poverty, from unworthy mindset, if I may call that. So let me start by you, Madam Francesca Tengera, who is also part of the ruling party. Looking back at the 26 years of Rwanda and the vision we've had as a country, how effective is Rwanda's political ideology in delivering Rwanda to the nation that we want?
Thank you. Rwanda's political ideology includes so many sections. But if we think of, we first think of the past, we look at what happened before 1994. We chose, first of all, the unity and reconciliation of Rwandans. And that's a very big pillar that Rwanda builds upon. When you talk of the unity and reconciliation, definitely you think there wasn't any unity. There wasn't unity in Rwanda. There wasn't unity amongst Rwandans, and that led to genocide against Tutsi. So one of the ideologies that Rwanda chose to move forward is to unify all Rwandans from different walks of life, and that's one of the RPF ideologies, as I belong to the ruling party, as you said. We have to accommodate, Rwandans decided to accommodate each and every person, leaving no one behind, because if Rwanda is to be built, it will be built depending on the strength, on the thoughts, on the thoughts of every Rwandan. So one of the choices we made, one of the choices Rwanda made, is unity and reconciliation. It is one of the pillars, it is one of the fundamental principles in our constitution, as you mentioned about the constitution. So once there wasn't unity, once there was a genocide against Tutsi, once there was people saw themselves belonging to different groups of Rwandese, they never saw themselves as Rwandans. They saw themselves as Hutus, Tutsi, as Twa. But today we look at ourselves as Rwandans, and it's one of the pillars that we are using to move forward to develop our country. There are also, based on that, there are also economic fundamentals, economic transformation, social transformation, and transformational governance. Those are the choices that Rwanda made, and they are under the NST1, the National Transformation Strategy for Rwanda. Yes.
Both of you are legislators, lawmakers, and I'm glad to actually have you at this particular time. Looking at the laws that we had before 1994,
yes,
the laws that we are having right now, do you think they are in the right place, or they are rightfully structured to deliver us to bring a distinction of the post-genocide and the Rwanda that we want, for that matter?
Well, thank you. I think, of course, the laws we had before the genocide, some of them were not fair for all Rwandans. And I mean, let's just first say, look at the law punishing the crime of genocide. We know that the former government had signed is it a treaty? But they never ratified it. They never made it into law here in Rwanda. So they just put on their signature, but they never made it a local law here, because they knew, maybe they thought that they would do something. They didn't want to be punished for that. So, but when the current government took over, that law was ratified. And from that, we have also made many other laws that can punish the crime of genocide, but also issues of discrimination have been also banned. And also the other laws that talk about genocide ideology. And some of them, of course, we have criticized some of those laws, like especially that one of genocide ideology. And the Minister of Justice listened to most of our ideas, and they have revised that law to make it more practical. Because before, it was not tangible. The issues of ideology were not tangible. Anyone could be arrested. But now they quantified it, and they showed things that can show someone that if someone has an ideology, like if you have done some actions or yeah. So basically, I would say that the laws we have now are much more tuned to the future that we want, and of course, not that we have enough laws. That's why there's a parliament that has to be there to make more laws and even to revise existing laws and so on. Yeah. So there may be some challenges here and there, but I think there's a political will to make laws that will govern Rwandans properly.
I'll go back to the word choices she mentioned while starting. President Paul Kagame's speech during the 20th commemoration of the genocide against the Tutsi on April 7th, 2014, he pointed out that what has led Rwanda's continued progress was the choice of Rwandans people, centered on the three choices Rwandans have made over the past years, which is staying together, being accountable, and thinking big. Mm-hmm. How do you interpret these choices?
Yes.
How do you interpret them?
Thank you. First of all, I start with the thinking big. I briefly mentioned about thinking big, though I'd never mentioned the thinking big. Thinking big is to have a vision, to see, to develop. Thinking big is to look at our country and see where we came from, see where we want, what is our vision, how are we going to develop, and what ways are we going to use. So that is thinking big. We no longer want to think small. We think our country is small in size, in kilometers squared. Yeah. But we want to think bigger than the size of the land. Because the country is made up of people first instead of the land. There are so many countries that are smaller than Rwanda, but they are really developed, they thought big before us, or they have opportunities that we don't have. But today we have opportunities. Probably if we get time, we shall mention of the opportunities we have later. But today we have opportunities that will help us to move forward, to develop despite the size, despite the problems we went through. Then if I can talk of the, you said thinking big.
Being accountable.
Being accountable, staying together. I also mentioned about that, the unity and reconciliation. When you look at Rwandans before, I mentioned it, they never had confidence in their leadership. They never had confidence in living here, in thinking that they can be one person, they can think as one people. Today, Rwandans are united. Of course, there are also challenges. If we get time, we shall talk of the challenges of unity and reconciliation. But at least today, a bigger percentage of Rwandans are thinking as one. And that's the unity he talked of. That's the way forward, the three choices we made. We must work together. We must be one. So as
we must think alike.
We must think alike. We must work together if we are to achieve anything in this world, if we are to develop, if we are to forget what happened in the past and then move forward. Then accountability.
Yeah, accountability.
If I can briefly go to accountability, I think you know it. We have institutions that were put in place to help in that accountability that was mentioned by His Excellency. We have the Office of the Auditor General, we have the Ombudsman, we have the Public Procurement Authority, to mention but a few.
Yeah.
If you are in the office, for example, if you are a head of an institution, you have to be accountable. They give you during the budgeting session, the institutions that get the budget from the government, they are given the budget, but you have to account for what you are given. Not only the budget, even the tasks you are given, you have to account, you have to tell people why you haven't achieved the task, the specific task that is given to an institution. So of course the task goes with funds. So there is no embezzlement that can be accommodated with Rwandans. You know,
But
they
of course
always.
it still happens.
It happens. It happens. Of course, we are not angels. We don't live in heaven if it exists. We live on earth. We are still human beings, and there are still bad elements amongst us, and that's why there is that accountability. Those elements that no longer see themselves as people who should move forward with us are the ones who are brought to law. Yeah. They are questioned, they are punished if it necessitates, they refund what they've embezzled, and if they cannot deliver, they get off and other people come in to deliver.
They'll take over.
Yeah, that's what
before
I can
bring
say.
in Jacques Igamba, allow me to, first of all, get Frank Habineza's thoughts about working together. You're part of the opposition, especially for the government, because but the opposition in Rwanda doesn't seem to be the opposition that is being imagined elsewhere across the world as we see it. Do you see Rwandans or the Rwandans' political ideology being together? Do you work together? Is there that unity of staying together? Is there that choice, rather, of staying together, being accountable, and thinking big together as a unit?
Well, thank you. In the fundamental principles, as stated in Article 10 of the Constitution, Rwanda committed itself to political pluralism. Political pluralism means that the country accepts to have different political parties that have different ideas or ideologies. But of course, also in the same Article 10, there are things that we as Rwandans have agreed that we will not do politics based on discrimination of any kind of race, ethnicity, it's a color or religion or legion or whatever. So basically, those are some of the things that we have that shapes us differently from other countries because we have had the genocide against the Tutsi here. We also have another principle, I think it's principle number 6, which talks about the consensus building.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so when you look into that, when you want to become a political party in Rwanda, so when you emerge, of course, like we emerged as a party, we did emerge in a confrontational manner, let me say like that. But as we went on understanding, we understood that being confrontational is not what the Constitution really wants, but what the Constitution really accepts is having competition. So we do subscribe to the politics of competition and having different ideas. And also, we do have in the Constitution a national forum for, a national consultative forum for political parties or political organizations in Rwanda, which also allows all political parties to sit together and discuss on some issues concerning the country. So in the beginning, like we spent almost 2 years when we were part, we had been just we were not going to that forum because we had had a lot of information, a lot of rumors that people, when parties go to the forum, they don't talk, that the RPF speaks alone.
Do you talk
we
when
do.
You go there?
You should ask your friends from RPF and other news organizations, media organizations who come there. We do give our views different from the RPF.
But do you think, coming together, sitting
and even our views,
talking,
they are respected. Even the political parties forum, one good thing is that we all even have equal numbers. The RPF has 4 people, we also have 4 people, every political party has 4 people. So if you have a good idea, people will listen. If you don't have a good idea, no one will listen. So we do challenge sometimes what RPF brings. Sometimes we do bring our own ideas and some people listen to them. So I say that people outside, let's say like where I was born in Uganda, they have a different kind of political spectrum because they never had a genocide. They just only had a war, but they never had a genocide. So they can afford to have even some divisions. People can do politics based on that you are from this region or from this other whatever. Even some religion. Sometimes some people say we are Catholics and they try to promote that. Let's say like one political party before, like the DP, Democratic Party in Uganda, they used to promote being Catholicism. So that if you are Catholic, you should vote for DP, and if you are like in the People's Congress, you should be a Protestant, things like that. Now it's ceasing, but people still do believe in those kind of things. But here in Rwanda, we can't go into that because we have seen where division has taken the country. So I would say that we are together in one thing, in the unity and reconciliation. We are together in fighting against another genocide. We are together in transforming this country. Yeah, so we can't, why can we be different when we want to have unity? Who wants to have his mother or his father being killed again or his children? No one wants that. Who wants to go back in the forests of Congo or Tanzania or wherever? Who wants to go there again? I don't think any Rwandans want to see that. So we're all united. We all want unity. We all want reconciliation. Maybe the mechanism to achieve that is what we don't agree on, what we differ on. So that's where we need to have different inputs to make sure that we all achieve our unity and reconciliation. We have maybe different approaches. Like for us, we do think that we need to have more political pluralism, to have more vibrancy, different ideas and so on.
Especially that vibrancy that you're talking about.
Yeah, we do. You ask my colleague here in Parliament. I think she knows very well that if I don't agree on something, I will not stomach it. I will say it and I will vote against it. And we do, even Parliament, say different things. And sometimes I see other friends from these other parties, even from the ruling, they sometimes even oppose their own, some of the laws. And so they vote for them. But at least they give some different ideas here.
I think that's why we need to get it. Let me bring in Jacques Gamba. Jacques Gamba, are you there? Can you hear me? Jacques Gamba, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
My pleasure.
I believe you've been following the conversation in the studio here, and I want to get your understanding of the current, Rwanda's current political ideology, vision, and the choices. What do you make of them?
Well, as my colleagues have just stated, these choices should be regarded in the context of our history, most recent history, after 1994, our country was in ruin, and we had experienced the worst genocide over the last century, with over 1 million people dead, infrastructure demolished, the whole social fabric torn apart, and also we had over 2 million of its citizens in refugee camp in neighboring countries. So the cause of this was ethnic divisions, which led to oppression and extermination of one section of the population. So it was paramount that His Excellency underlined that staying together and avoid divisionism and the policies that drove Rwanda to almost its own self-annihilation be avoided. But then that's why we, early on, the government promoted the policies of national unity and reconciliation, which is always improved by politics that accommodate everybody, that eliminated any ethnic mentions in our ID card, because now everybody, like in the past, where everybody had to be asked to produce ID card, which sometimes, at some point for me and other people like myself, was considered a passport to death. But in terms of the other policy of choice of thinking big, I can only give an example. It's just an idea of changing our mindset. You see that the media people always journalists, Western, especially Western journalists, refer to Rwanda as a small country in East Central Africa, or just a tiny little country, which are really debasing. But remember, once His Excellency the President said, we may be a small country, but we are not small-minded people. We encourage us to think big. Imagine, that's I give like just one. It's just one joke, but to illustrate how our mindset changed now. I remember in one interview, asking President Habyarimana at the time, because Rwanda didn't have a television, then they asked him, journalists asked him, yeah, Mr. President, why doesn't Rwanda have a television? And he said in Kinyarwanda, turabakene, kandi ntabwo tuyikeneye kugira ngo dukine imiziki ya Michael Jackson. So he said, we're poor. We can't have a television to play Michael Jackson songs.
Yes.
But then, you see now Rwanda can even have a satellite, launch a satellite. Now we use the robots. We have this drones to deliver blood in remote areas. So we think that something, you can think like other people think. We can't be prisoner of our small-mindedness that we inherited from the past. So that's why really Rwanda has been able to make a tremendous progress compared to the countries in the area and even in the whole Africa. Not because we are rich with resources, but because we have a mindset of thinking big. That's all I can say.
Mindset of thinking big, mindset of staying together, mindset of being accountable. Do you think our leaders are accountable?
I forgot to talk about being accountable. Yeah. I think I can talk about like someone who grew up in different regimes and started under Kayibanda, but then have Habyarimana, which I know very well. There was no accountability. Everybody was above. Some people were above the law. It's like any animal farm. Jojo's book Animal Farm, where they say all animals are equal, but there are those who are more equal than the others. So, but now there is a system of check and balances. I can refer to the Honorable Francesca and everybody who follows what's going on in the Parliament with this Public Accounts Committee with Senator Juvenal Musi, where he head of government enterprises, head of any organization is brought to account for how they manage the public resources. And then if somebody in Rwanda makes a mistake, whether a minister or anyone, my friend, that person is gone because he failed to fulfill is a pledge to accomplish his goal or his mandate. So that's kind of accountability that we need to protect the resources, meager resources we have, and also if we want everybody to be equal before the courts and before the law.
Ja, let me ask you, you know our fundamental principles as stated in the Constitution, but particularly this principle number 6, constant quest for solutions through dialogue and consensus. You've lived in Rwanda, you've lived in other places, especially even in the UK where you are. Do you think consensus and dialogue is the best way to go?
Of course, with there are people who I was reading an article. Somebody, a friend of mine, who saw this article published in a newspaper in Australia. It was written by an English professor and academic who said that a Rwandan model can't be exported, can't be taken and copied elsewhere. Because they said that because our model is dictated by our history, our culture, and so on. But then I think it's a rebuttal that came from Rwanda from a colleague, Gerard Banda, who said, "Sorry, Professor, our model is not for export; it's for us. So what we achieved is tailored to the needs of our population. So in terms of what we're doing and where we're going, that's solely based on our homegrown solutions, which respond to the needs for the economic well-being and development of our people."
Okay, you had his views. It's 26 years later. We cannot forget where we've come from, but we still need to, based on our future projections as a country, the development, to where we come from. To 26 years later, haven't we matured enough to start looking at other ideologies, political ideologies, and other ideas that can actually push us to being the Rwanda that we want? Do we have to stick to the 26 years ago that we experienced this, so we cannot change this and that?
Sorry? Can you
What
repeat?
I'm saying?
Yes.
Don't you think we're mature enough as a nation to move away from some of the political ideologies that we've had and held on to for the last 26 years?
Well, thank you. We are mature, but we are not yet mature enough. We have moved 26 years, but we still see some elements that pull us back. For example, we have matured, but we are not yet as developed as we want. The fundamental economic transformation we want, we haven't achieved. We still lack infrastructure. Of course, we have gone somehow far in having some infrastructure. For example, electricity. At least we know a big part of Rwanda is electrified, but still we want all of Rwanda to be electrified. We need roads. We have roads, but we don't have tarmac roads everywhere in Rwanda. So we have matured. It's like a baby delivered today. He grows up, or she up to 12 years. You say she's a teenager, but you want that person to go to 18, to 21, to an adult, to even an old man.
Yeah.
So we still have a long way to go. Even those countries that developed before us, those that have infrastructure, still need more infrastructure. They even want to go to the moon, to find other planets.
Yeah.
So for us, we still have a lot of things to cover. And if I go back to the fundamental I talked about, the unity and reconciliation, we still have people who don't believe we are one. We still have people who want to take us back.
Genocide ideologies.
Exactly. Who hold ideology of genocide, ethnicity, who are still in the bush, who want to take us back, who don't want to be with us because they want to see themselves as the ethnic group. And they want to see us that. So we still have that long way to go. We want every Rwandan to think like us, to know that we are one, to know that if we are to develop, if we are to achieve anything, we must be together. Even those who don't want to be with us today, we believe in the future they will be with us. And if they don't come, but their children will come. The future is for the youth. It's not for us only today. Yeah. We have the youth, and if that youth think like us, the old ones will go with their old ideas. Yes. I've talked of the economic transformation. I've talked of the ideology, the genocide ideological ideas that people still hold. Yeah. So we haven't grown enough. We still want to grow.
Don't you think there is some things that need to change? 26 years later, it's not a short time.
Well, yes, of course, there are some things that need to change, but there are some fundamentals that need to remain, like the issues of unity and reconciliation. I think that's a don't touch.
We need to be united.
That's a don't touch, because if you take away unity and reconciliation, then we are back into killing each other, we are back into havoc and genocide again, and we don't want to go back into that. So we must uphold that principle of unity and reconciliation. But then issues of governance. I think the issues of governance, according to the Constitution, we agree on political pluralism. So I think we need to improve more on that, and so that people could feel free to join political parties and could feel proud of their political parties, even if they are not in the ruling party. And then people in other political parties could also have a chance to do economic activities or have jobs and. Because when you go to the rural areas, I mean, what I'm saying, say it with proof that we went to one district in the northern province, and we had a training there, and people told us that, you know what, that there's only one political party here, it's RPF. And there's only one church here, Catholic Church. So one church, one party. Other parties, they're not allowed. So basically, there are people, it's just 1 hour's drive from here. Yeah. People used to have that mentality. You know, so we've gone even here in this house where we booked, paid our conference hall, and people said, no, you cannot have your meeting from here. Until
so
then,
this is a hotel that
yes,
is denying you.
We paid up everything.
We need.
Yes,
so
and this
how
is.
How do we move from that?
Exactly, that's what I'm trying to say. This kind of mentality has to change. People have to know that all political parties in Rwanda will all have equal rights and equal opportunities. That even if you're in the ruling party and you're part of the governance, you should recognize as a parties and don't look at them as enemies. And there's some people up to now who still think that we are from the forest, that some of them still confuse us with armed groups like FDLR and others. And I mean, it is strange. I mean, we're 26 years later, we have grown up, but people, they are still stuck in the kind of pre-genocide ideology of one-party state. They don't see that we are no longer a one-party state, that we are pro-democracy here.
Whose fault is it? Is this
that's why I'm saying that this is issues of governance. They have to be improved.
If I may interrupt, I think the fault is for the predecessors of the politics before. People are scared of the multipartism because they saw what happened here because of the multiparties. And it is not their fault. It is the fault of you people to show that what you are intending to do is unity, is to work together, is development. So they don't understand that today we want to work together. But if we make them understand as politicians, we visit them, we tell them these people are together, we normally go together to the field.
So it is, you think it's the fault, it's
the
responsibility
parties,
of the opposition
of the parties
to make
themselves.
their presence felt?
Exactly, that's
I don't
it.
think so. I think it's the issues of the local governance, the local administrators. Some of them are still thick in their minds. They don't see that really that we as a country, we have moved on, we have evolved. We have 11 political parties in Rwanda, and they all have equal chances and equal opportunities. And people, the villagers or the people, the citizens, they have a right to join any party. So without being asked, because sometimes they are asked, why did you choose to join that party? Will you be safe? Or if you're in that party, if you need, like if they go, they need a cow, they say, go to your party to give you the cow.
But
you know, people
if I may ask you, Frank, we see parties like PSD and PL.
Exactly.
Do you think they're being considered the way Green Party or...
No, they are not considered the same way because they have been part of the ruling coalition just immediately since after the genocide.
Exactly.
So because the PSD and PL with other coalition partners, they have been in the government from that time. So when PSD goes, I don't think they are treated the same way we are being treated. Like if you people from PSMBRA and the Green Party, when we go to the ground, we are treated differently. But those ones, they are not.
But I think it's.
But I know I've had stories. I've had stories that even during the campaigns, that when it's time for elections, sometimes it's not also so easy for PSD and PL. I hear, but I don't have proof for that. I don't have proof for it. But I had stories that sometimes when it's time for campaigns, things are quite difficult for all of us.
So how do we make sure?
I don't think that's true because the local government, he mentioned that the fault of the local government. Those are the very people who prepare the ground for their campaigns. They are the ones who allow them to go to carry out the campaigns. So when you want to do the campaign, you write to them. But if you want to go seriously, without mentioning your presence, without telling them that you'll be present, definitely you meet resistance.
Well,
but
local governments,
even in the private sector, because he's talking about
even
a hotel that denied them a room to hold a conference.
But if you go back to the local government, we have specific examples, like when we went to Nyagatare district, where the local administration took us to a cemetery to campaign from there. We also have a specific case in Chirehe district when local administration took us deep into the forest and they made children beat us, throw stones at us. So these are specific examples and they are not secrets, they have been even out in the media. So the problem is still there with local administration. That's what we are saying. That's what I'm trying to, I'm saying that this needs to change because you asked us a question, do we have something to change? Yes, I'm saying this has to change. This mentality from local leaders has to change. They need to know that we are all human beings, we are all Rwandans, we all love our country, we all have the same objectives of unifying this country, but we have different ideas, and we have different political ideologies, and we are also registered. So we all should be given equal opportunities, equal chances. If the winner wins, that's okay. But this when you have been given an equal opportunity. That's what I'm trying to say.
You've been in the system, of course, in the legislation for some time now. What is your understanding of the politics now, and do you think we are a step further from presidential campaigns, where you campaigned from the forests, where probably people thought it's a Green Party, you need to go to a Green zone. How far have we got from that particular
not being Green Party meant that you should go to the forest. That's what, if that was the case, then that was a very, very wrong mentality. Yeah. But I would say that I think this parliament is a different parliament, and maybe it's also a different timing, that at least all political parties registered in Rwanda, they are represented in parliament. This is the first time that this is happening. And it's also the first time that opposition parties are also part of the parliament. I mean, those parties which have not been part of the ruling coalition.
Yeah.
So, so I would say that there is, it's been not easy in the beginning. We've been learning this and that and some crashes here and there, but I think we are getting to understand each other. And I would say that now that if we bring our different ideas, people do appreciate, they don't fight us.
How do they perceive you in Parliament in relation to the perception that we've had
Perhaps you should ask my colleague how they perceive us. She can tell you how they perceive us.
She might say they perceive you very well.
Exactly, that's it.
How do you perceive them?
We are together.
They are not like the way they are being perceived in the towns he mentioned where they were.
No way.
How are you being perceived?
Well, I would say that as we are approaching 2 years. Yeah. As I said, the first year was quite difficult. I mean, we were new, and I think even other MPs were new also in the parliament. Almost half of the parliament were all new.
More than half.
More than half. So I think most of them had the same perception as the local leaders. So there was that kind of clashing here and there. And but now I think during the second year, I think people have understood that yes, we are different, but we are not against each other. I think that's what I would say. That they know that we are not against the country. We may be against a certain idea or a certain ideology, but not against the republic. We are not against the Republic of Rwanda. We are for the republic. We are for the unity of Rwandans. We are for the development of Rwanda. But we may not agree with this idea or that policy or that policy, but that does not mean that we are not agreeing with the country. We oppose her party, but we are not opposing Rwanda. Do you get my point here? We are not opposing the republic. We may oppose the government. We oppose the government, but not the republic. These are two different things here. Yeah. So some people think that, because you're opposition, you're against the country. No, we are not against the country. Yeah. And being in opposition, even RPF has been in opposition. Yeah. And this is now in the government. And tomorrow, if we win the elections, there will be an opposition. And we still work together. And we'll be in the government. So all we can be, even the law of Rwanda, the constitution of Rwanda, allows all the parties in parliament to be in the government. So we can still even be in the government together, even when we have different ideas. So it's all allowed here. So I think that in parliament, the perception has evolved here. And I wish that even people in the local administration, their perception should evolve and take us all as Rwandans with equal chances and equal opportunities, not just in ideas, but also in people having access to jobs, to markets, to what. So, because it affects everything there.
Yeah. If I may talk about what he's saying, he says even in RPF once was in opposition, today it's a ruling party. If you may understand the word front means accommodative. Yeah. Yes. It means we are in RPF, we believe having different ideas is healthy. It helps people to develop. Even in RPF itself, don't think they have one idea. They bring ideas, different ideas together until they get one that can move forward the country. Now that we are the ruling party. Yeah. So having different ideas is healthy with RPF. Having different ideas, it's fantastic in parliament. So it's not a problem at all having an opposition sitting beside me, having different ideas on a certain law that has come in, having a different idea on different forums that we have. It's okay. Once it's very good for us, it's good for the to move forward the country. We accept it. It's really healthy to have an opposition, so we don't see him as an enemy. Yeah. But if I can go back to what he said about the people, the perception of the people, I mentioned that before. I said people have a very scary remembrance of the multipartyism. The parties are the ones that drove this country to the stage of genocide. Yeah. Even some parties that were.
But at some point we had one party.
Exactly, yeah. And one party wasn't here. It's the one that prepared genocide and implemented it. Yeah. So multipartyism is okay. We have so many parties in Rwanda. Probably many more will develop. But if people in the fields, if the people in the local government, if individuals look at you differently, don't think it's the policy. It's really totally different.
I think we need to change that.
The perception. Yes, we have to.
Frank Habineza or Philippe Maimana.
It's his responsibility. Nobody else's responsibility. It's his responsibility to show how what he wants from the people, what he wants from the opposition. So when you go to the people and you tell them something different that is not constructive, people who know what happened here, they will definitely avoid they will definitely try to get rid of you. But if you show yourself as someone together with other parties, that's why PL, that's why PSD, they are not harassed. So it's up to you.
So without joining the coalition, that means there is a problem, or the way you present yourself on the first, on the onset, becomes the issue of the general understanding.
Well, I would say that it's the problem is, I think, let's call it a collective responsibility. But the government has a bigger responsibility to play. And I will give a specific example. When we were harassed in Nyagatare during the presidential elections, and in Kirehe, and we reached a moment whereby my campaign team was going to suspend the campaigns, because we said we had seen worse before in Changu, we had been in Nyamasheke, had been in the Sizi, we had seen problems, we had tolerated them. But when it reached there, when we were suspending the campaign, then the Minister of Local Government, Honorable Francis Kaboneka, made, I think, a video conference with all the mayors in the country. And they warned them and told them that, you know what, all political parties, all the candidates have chances to campaign. Stop that misbehavior you are doing. And the government took even a stand of arresting one mayor, I think, in Rubavu, who was doing something. And even I know that those mayors who had done something bad to us in Nyakatara and in Chirehe, they were also disciplined one way or another, questioned, whatever. So then that atmosphere reduced. And then we were able to do a proper campaign. And I give you a good example. When we went to Nyamagabe, we had about 60,000 people coming to our campaign. So there was a big difference. People were blocking people to come. They stopped blocking them, and people were able to come. So I would say that that's why the government has a role to play. So you can't take the government away from there, because if something happens, the government has a responsibility to cater for, because the Rwandans say that the government is a mother for all Rwandans. It's our mother. So it has to take care of these children here.
Exactly.
Yes, we have a responsibility, as she said, that we should have good politics. That's when I agree. We should not have bad politics of divisions and so on. But if we're having good politics and people are mistreating us and torturing us and also arresting us or doing something bad, then the government has a role to play. And they include, when I say government, includes the police and all the organs of the government here.
Jacques Kayigamba, you've heard what is transpiring in the studio here. What is your understanding of multiple party system and what we're talking about here? How do we make sure that dialogue and consensus takes root in our politics? Jacques Kayigamba, you there?
It's by Honorable Frank.
Yes.
I think I can only sympathize with him, but he should also appreciate that Rwanda came a long way. I remember way back in 1991 when multipartyism was accepted in Rwanda by the then MRND, single ruling party. I remember people traveling to areas like Ruhengeri used to be for campaigning, like opposition parties like PA or MDR. They used to be pelted with the stones. I don't think such things happen today. But his few cases he mentioned about being not accommodated by local authorities. These are a few bad apples, but we can't overgeneralize that the situation is really bad, because the politics of consensual democracy, where every political parties accommodate, that's why it's got a seat in the parliament today. But I should appreciate that even in mature democracies, there are political parties who are like heavyweights. Here in the UK, we've got like small parties like a Green Party or the Liberal Democratic Party who have 1 MP or 5 MPs. Definitely their voices will not pass through like the Conservative or the Labour Party, which has a big agenda, which offers different programs that are attracting people. Though the politics of like the Green Party or Liberal Democrats are attractive, but you need a political crowd, financial crowd. If your Green Party goes on the field with the RPF, which has been on the ground also, which massive infrastructure in terms of logistics, and also in terms of a governing agenda, what is offered to people. So it depends on what really Frank and his party offers to the people, so that people can make a choice. But otherwise, for me, it's really things are moving in the right direction, though there are always things to improve.
How do we improve those? How do we improve those? How do we improve? How do we make sure that that perception of seeing Green Party or any other political party as a terrorist element, for instance, like you mentioned, or something that is not, that doesn't have the goodwill of the people? How do we change that?
I think it's a matter of educating the people, especially those the grassroots
leaders,
the local authorities, to be minded that we accommodate everyone as long as they are building, not destroying. Because you have to note also that there are other people, not Frank, but other elements that call themselves opposition parties, who are hell bent on bringing back the genocide ideology, or who are not working for the interests of the country. Those who are, we mentioned, that mentioned like those of P5. So maybe they confuse him with other political parties like others that we know that saw division instead of consolidating a national unity. But otherwise, sustaining the population, also, but also taking to the leaders to understand their responsibility to accommodate every political party that comes towards them.
He talked about the incident that happened and how the former Minister of Local Governments took part to make sure that the local leaders understand the role of political parties. Do you think there is a role the government can play in making sure that the other opposition parties are perceived in the right way, but also seen as the contributors of Rwanda's development?
Of course. Because the government, as he said, he looks for the interest of all, caters for the interest of all Rwandans. I think the problem, I think, if I can guess it right, is some overzealous local leaders who figure that, if I prevent the Green Party from campaigning or having a conference, I'm doing good to the ruling party or to the RPF or other interests. No, let them compete on the ground. They'll be competing on ideas and what they can offer. So let's give everybody equal chance to campaign, and then that will pass by allowing them to hold meetings, to campaign, win the elections, and that's why we can have a fair and equal opportunities to governance. But I think the government, with the Minister of Interior or security organs, have a mandate and a duty to remedy or to deter anybody who try to thwart Honorable Frank's people to go about their political business.
Let me engage you on the question that I asked the panel here earlier. Do you think, 26 years later, do you think some things need to change in Rwanda, the way we're seeing things? Of course, I'm not talking about unity. We need unity. The world needs unity. But do you think some political ideologies need to change, owing to the fact that we've matured 26 years later as a nation?
I think what would change, must change, really, it's a belief that we have achieved a lot. You look at I saw the transformation of our country, especially in the capital, which was a rubble after 1994. And when I'm in the diaspora, but every time when I come to Rwanda after a couple of years, I could see that this will kill every development steps we have taken. But that one, we have to upkeep the framework we set up for accountability, also respecting the idea of national unity and reconciliation. Because definitely, if some remnants, you could see that there are some remnants of genocide ideology that is still prevail in some sectors and some sections of the population, especially with I was mentioning this story I had recently of a massive grave at Gitwe University Hospital, where people had living in that living in the area never mentioned that there was a massacre, which means that the people are not really ready
not opening up.
to to give up with the past that took us to genocide. So we need to get together to understand that we're working for unity and not really make sure that we never go back to what Rwanda was in the past. Well, this division, this genocide, the hatred and so on, we should make sure that we consolidate our gains by educating everybody, especially I'm talking here about some section of the youth, especially in the diaspora, which is still harbors genocidal ideology, inherited from their genocidal fathers who are fugitive or roaming the world. But in Rwanda, we have to educate them to understand where we came from and where we go once we cut off our ties with the past.
Interesting insights over there. We are entering the second part of our discussion this evening, and I want us to talk about sustaining gains that we've made as a nation, but also considering that we have a few issues to address, like he was mentioning. How do we sustain the gains, our political gains, our political choices, the gains of our political choices? How do we sustain that moving forward?
Thank you. Moving forward is very important. We should not go back to where we were. As Kaigam has just mentioned, that we should know where we came from and we avoid to go back. But sustainability is very important. We have, the government has put in place programs, has put in place actions to be carried forward so that we don't go back. First of all, sustaining the unity we have. We are educating the youth. We have Itorero. If I mention that Torero teaches the youth, the young ones, even some old ones, not to go back to the genocidal ideologies, to show them what happened. They show them the action plans, the programs that Rwanda has, and they request the youth their participation. So that's one thing of sustaining what we have achieved. Then the programs we have, the national strategy for transformation talked of, the economic transformation. I won't go deep into the economic transformation. It has so many keys and objectives. If you may talk of the private sector, for example, if we are to sustain what we have achieved economically, the private sector has to be supported, has to move forward, has to work very hard so that we don't go back to poverty. At least Rwanda has achieved some level of, we have, I may not use the word eradication, but at least we have reduced some level of poverty. We want to, you know how much we wanted to achieve in 2020, though we haven't achieved that in terms of finance, but we have moved towards it. That is one of the ideas. That's how we can sustain what we have. And then, I may talk of the transformational governance. I skip the social transformation. But even if I don't skip the social transformation, when you talk of the social transformation, it is one of the pillars that will help us to sustain what we have achieved. It includes the improving education. It improves the people living healthy. The people getting accommodation, removed from the housing, thank you, from the high-risk zones to apartments that are built by the government. For those who are not capable of getting their own housing, we have the transformation governance. We have the leadership.
How do we move on? Despite the challenges that you mentioned, how do we move on? How do we progress? How do we move as a country to make sure that we sustain what we've achieved, but also making amends where we've not done well as a nation?
Yeah, well, I think, first of all, we need to stick with the spirit of the Constitution.
Yes.
Especially those fundamental principles in Article 10. They are 6, they are not so many.
There are 6, yes.
Yeah, so there's that one, fighting against the genocide, and there is empowering women, making sure that women are part of the structures, even the 30%. And now we have even a new scourge of defilement, rape. And then we go to other parts. Maybe I would dwell on this part, I think at part 4, which talks about
building a state governed by the rule of law.
The rule of law.
Yeah.
So there, when the country has to make sure that we have we have some institutions in place. We have the Investigation Bureau, we have the Rwanda Police, we have, but the issues of rule of law have to be enforced, because when there is no rule of law, people will lose trust in the government. When there is no rule of law, even investors who lose trust. Say, if I go to invest my money there, maybe something will change and I will take my businesses and so on, or, institutions. And these issues of accountability, they also come into the rule of to embezzle government funds. They know that the law will catch up with them. And so that if that is put into practice, to have one word called the big fish and the small fish.
Yeah.
So, so if all the fishes, whether big or small,
yes,
they are all held accountable in equal terms. It gives a good signal that even other types of other fishes, or not even other animals who are not fish, they will know that if a big fish was arrested, if I try also be, at least I will be punished.
Yeah.
If someone's property has been auctioned, because we need to move on. If people embezzle government funds, we arrest them, but what's next? They should auction those properties. And then they will know that if you construct a house after stealing government money, your house, your property will be auctioned. Then it will discourage someone else to do the same. Yeah. So, so that's the rule of law. And then we come to another principle, could be number 5, I think, which is about power sharing.
Yes.
That's power sharing?
No, building a state committed to promoting social welfare and establishing appropriate mechanisms for equal opportunity to social justice.
Yes, I think that one is more said there. But let me talk about the power sharing.
Power sharing, which is number 3.
Number 3, yes, yeah. So this is very important because this principle was put there for a purpose. The previous government or previous governments, because it was not just one government. And they used to have something called a kazoo or whatever, like a small creek. And that made other Rwandans in other parts of the country feel left out from these governments. And these things create discontent and later helped in bringing some of the troubles that we have here. So I would say that the new government, when it took over, it adopted the principle of power sharing, saying that now we should not do the same mistakes like as our predecessors did. We should make sure that if we have power, state power should be shared between all political actors, and including civil society and others here. So I would say that the government, the current government, which has the mandate to govern Rwanda, should remember that principle which is in the Constitution, that all political actors, they need to be involved. I'm saying this because some political actors, including ourselves, we are not yet involved in the governing of the country. Yet the Constitution allows that.
But you're in the legislation. Which
we
is
got elected into the parliament. But the law says that Article 62 of the Constitution, that once a party is in parliament, it has a chance to get into state structures. That's including ministers and other structures. So we're still waiting for that. I think we are not going to debate that. We had a big debate here with the former Minister of Constitutional Affairs.
Yeah.
So I think I made all my points very clear. So I'm saying that we haven't seen that yet in the Constitution. It's not only us, even the other parties. So we say that this is one of the fundamental principles of the Constitution. These things, if they're not respected when they're under the Constitution, it creates discontent, it creates problems, then it kills the sustainability. You cannot sustain your gains when you have grumbling, discontent, and what, and those things when they grow over with time, they create bigger problems. As you know, political parties, their mandate is to rule. I mean, all political parties being established is to achieve. As one of our colleagues who says, not to go to dig or whatever, potatoes or whatever, but it's to have political power. So basically, this is one of the reasons we were established as political parties.
So do you think...
Wait a moment.
Yes.
So if we cannot sustain this, or we cannot respect our own constitution or all the articles in the constitution, then we give room to problems or to enemies. And then maybe another point I'll talk about, since I've mentioned about enemies, that we should also have a mechanism of, like we have the Article 6 of the Constitution talks about, I mean, Article 6 of the fundamental.
Yeah, so I want to actually bring in...
Part 6 of the fundamental principles, which talks about consensus and dialogue. You know?
Yes.
Consensus and dialogue.
Yeah, which is 6.
Number 6 of the fundamental principles, yeah. So this thing is important, that we should be able to dialogue with people we perceive as our enemies of the state, and people we perceive as we don't agree with, whether inside the country or outside the country. There is that provision of dialogue. I don't know how the government can do it, but the government has, let's say, they can have the minds, they have the wisdom, so that we should, because if we are able to do that, we will save the country from another list of people who can destabilize. Because you have seen people throwing grenades around here. You've seen people trying to attack us in Ruhengeri last year, in Musanze. You have some, I mean, there are problems here and there. So I think the government, through its Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Cooperation, can find means of how it can use this article, this principle of dialogue, to make sure that we can dialogue with people we don't agree with. Because, of course, you don't dialogue with people you agree with. People you agree with, you discuss with them, you have a conversation. And then those you don't agree with, then you have that dialogue. So that at the end, we can have a sustainable Rwanda whereby you know that your children will not see. I've had a chance to live in Sweden, and people in Sweden, they said they've not seen war for 200 years. And imagine 200 years they have not seen war. Even the First World War and Second World War, they passed. They never took part of that. So basically, people when they don't know what war is. I want to have a Rwanda whereby my children and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren, they will say that we had a war in 1990, and that will be like 200 years later. And people have done, they say, this is a peaceful country. We're able to solve our problems through consensus, through dialogue, and we can move on forward. So,
but this is
my way of sustaining our gains.
They are not using the dialogue approach.
So
and I will get back
they
to
do.
that.
Actually, in Sweden, some of the things
we are talking about the enemies of the country. I don't think that's...
Of course, those who want to fight, you fight with them. No. I mean, that's the Ministry of Defense has that mandate.
Yes.
Those who want to fight, you fight with them. I am also master in war. If you didn't know that. Yeah, that is there. There you can do that. But there are those who want to talk, we talk with them. But even those who want to fight, they fight and they take time to talk. They don't fight forever. They fight and they get tired of fighting, and you can talk to them. Yeah. So still there's a chance. There's always a chance of talking, because you don't win by fighting. No, because no one will win by fighting.
I will get back to you. Please hold your point. Please hold your point, and I will get back to you. Jack Gamba, you've heard that, and how do we sustain the gains of political choices?
I got the point, but I was listening quietly to Honorable Frank Habineza calling for dialogue. Let me ask him, how do you have a dialogue with an entity like FDR or not have a platform of destroying what you have achieved?
Do they even want dialogue?
National unity and reconciliation. Also, if these parties still they're harboring genocide, denial, and revisionism, I don't see any chance for the Rwanda government going to look for first of all, these entities calling themselves political parties from abroad. They are not political parties as such, because they are not registered in the country. They can pretend to be political parties, but they are not. Maybe it's just a scheme of living abroad and trying to attract funding from their members. But as long as They're not in Rwanda. They're not offering a political platform that is going forward with the choices we made. I don't see how we can accept those parties that were initially were built on the same genocidal agenda or ethnic divisions of the past. So that's a problem. But otherwise, done. There's nobody who's been denied to come and build the country. We have this program, I think, in the country, Come and See. People have who had a hostile attitude towards the government came to Rwanda and they saw by themselves, by their own eyes, what's happening in the country in terms of reconciliation and national unity. They decided to stay and come back.
So, Jean, what you're saying is that these, elements that, actually are part of the destabilizing the country, those you mentioned, the LD, Runan, and the like, when it's this part, the fundamental principle number 6 of constant quest for solution through dialogue and consensus, they should be the ones to take a step and end whatever they are doing that is not against actually seeking consensus and dialogue.
Now, first of all, I've seen it anywhere where any government in the world would negotiate with an entity that is very bent on destroying what that government achieves. I think if those entities or parties want, whatever so-called parties want to have a dialogue, they should renounce any forms of genocide denial or any peddling of double genocide ideology. Also accept that Rwanda is changed and changed for good, so that they embrace the policies you have of consensus in Rwanda, where they accommodated small and big parties like Frank Habinez Green Party, which was recently accepted in parliament through legal means, through peaceful means. But embracing those parties because they have been a threat since I don't see cases of people who returned to Rwanda from who said, after many years in those organizations saying that I realized I was mistaken. Now I'm coming back to build the country with the other people inside the country.
I think it's not a coincidence that the first fundamental principle of our constitution is prevention and punishment of crimes of genocide, fighting against denial and revisionism of genocide, as well as eradication of genocide ideology and its all manifestations. I think if you cannot move from this first fundamental principle, then the rest is very hard to be achieved.
Sure. That's correct.
Yeah. Before we went to Kaigamba, you had,
Yes.
you had some.
I had some points to talk about. How can you dialogue? How can you talk? How can you sit on a table, debate with someone who says that you'll come to this country when there is no longer any Tutsi living?
Exactly.
That's not possible. And those are the people who want the dialogue. How can you have a dialogue with someone like Twagiramungu, I'm sorry to mention the name, but he said it, that his problem is not to take over the country because he's confident he will take it over, but his major problem is how he will destroy the buildings that have been put up. How can you have a dialogue with someone who is destructive like him? How can you have a dialogue with someone who ran away from accountability? Someone who embezzled government money, he ran away, and when he reached outside, when he has got accommodation, then he turns his sins into a political party. He wants to have dialogue. Let him first serve the sentence. Let him first be punished. Let him first be accountable. Then, if he wants to start a party, he can have a party like yours, a peaceful one. You have a dialogue. And again, if I may conclude this, we have a forum for dialogue. We have every December, we have the national dialogue, and everyone who has something to build this country, and everyone who wants to talk, it's a forum, international one. Everyone everywhere in the world brings in his thoughts. Over the world, always hold. So that principle is not over stepped, that principle is always carried out. Every December, we have the dialogue. And we have several forums that we can have the dialogue. Even the government retreat, it's always open. You can tweet, you can give your thoughts before. We always come here to talk about the government retreat, and we say what we want those people to discuss. So the dialogue is there. But we can't have a dialogue, I'm sorry to say, with the people who are destructive, with the people who run away from accountability. That's what I wanted to say.
How do you move away from detractors? How do you move away from people who don't want to see things the same way? She's just mentioned about someone who wants to come and their first goal is to demolish all the buildings that have been set up.
Well, I was not aware of.
I wasn't aware
of that.
I
never heard him say that.
Yes.
Last time I had. Well,
but how do we move?
But what I would say is that why this principle was put into the Constitution is because it is something very important for this nation, because of where we have come from and where we want to go.
Definitely.
Yeah. So it is something which has to be continuous, not to be done once a year, I mean the national Mushichirano, but it has to be in our daily life. And I am not the one who at times who knows that these are the country's enemies or these are country's friends. That's not my mandate. But I think there are institutions who have that mandate. One of them is the Minister of Foreign Affairs. I think they are in charge of that, and there are others who know that these are countries' friends and these are countries' enemies. So my quest is that we should be able to move to that hard level whereby we could be able to dialogue with our perceived enemies. And because the friends, we'd always discuss with them. Yeah. So I also agree with Jean and Honorable Kengla. Those ones, of course, that's against the Constitution. Those ones, that's difficult to dialogue with them if their ideology is committing another genocide. But I know that there are so many political groups all over the world who do not yet have the same idea of committing the genocide. There are so many. Maybe he has mentioned a few, but I think there are many. At least I know of more than 100.
Give an example.
And I'm not here to give examples, but I know that there are more than 100 who wish to come back to Rwanda, but they have some issues here, they have some problems there, and even some of them have problems with people who they are already living there. But they still think that's the government, yet the people they had a problem with
the ideology.
So they may have some common issues, maybe with governance issues, some of them have governance issues. So I think that the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the other institutions should take up steps to who never committed genocide, or who are not even in the terrorist groups or whatever, but they wish to come back to Rwanda, but they cannot come back because of some issues with the state. So I think that the state, the government, has a responsibility, and is mandated by the Constitution to dialogue with all those people to make sure that they can safeguard us, to safeguard us, yes, to safeguard us in future of people who may have a small problem which may become a bigger problem and can take up arms to destabilize us.
Do you think those that you mentioned, if they came, there would be any problem? I don't know the small problems you mentioned.
I think that the Rwanda we want, because we are now talking about liberation. The Rwanda we want. For me, I want to have a Rwanda whereby it's free from scare of war and conflict. So wherever you have grumbling people outside the country, you really cannot sleep properly. Because you know that those people, they have bad motives, bad plans, evil plans. Yeah. So if there's a chance, if they want to fight, fight with them. Yes, those who want to fight, we have institutions to talk. Let's talk to them. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. The armed struggle, but we are moving beyond that. How do we move together as a nation?
Consolidate what you have achieved. The fundamentals remain: national unity and reconciliation. But I come back to Honorable Frank, I mean, is when he says the minister, the Foreign Affairs Ministry should make effort to locate those people. I'm not sure if he forgot the program the government has, or it still has, I think, called the Come and See.
What?
That program, Come and See. Come and See is a program
Come and see, go and
of
tell.
looking for people,
Yeah.
from the diaspora, all those people to come and visit Rwanda. They're coming from Zambia, from any location. They come and visit and see that because some people are fed up with the falsehoods, with the fake stories about that if you go to Rwanda, you're killed, or in the case of Nyahaga, who was brought from Belgium, he's there, but he was welcomed by his sister in Rwanda. So you have the case of this young man who was in Umushyikirano who said his father is a rebel commander, FDR commander, that they called him to come, he didn't come, but the government is paying for his scholarship and also for his sisters who was studying in China and another one is studying in Ghana. There is a willingness for the government to accommodate everybody, but not everyone who is involved in activities of like Kwajiramungu, the missions, or other people who have run away because of they fraud with the law or who embezzled the funds. There is a gentleman who in 1995 he was in a high position of what you have achieved in terms of unification and reconciliation. Because whether we want it or not, genocide ideology, genocide denial and revisionism is very prevalent from outside, from those milieux that Frank Havina is talking about.
John, I want to believe those are your last thoughts because we are coming to the end, and I want to appreciate you for joining us all the way from the UK.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I will take your last thoughts. Moving forward as a nation that we're building together, how of our liberation?
Yes, thank you. We know how we have achieved the gains. We know what we have put in place so that we achieve the gains. And if we have put in place, we keep on improving on it. We keep on asking people to be accountable of what they are given. We keep on reconciling and uniting Rwandans. We keep on educating the youth. We keep on emancipating women. We keep on developing in different sectors. In that way, we shall sustain what we have gained. We shall even achieve more. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Frank, your last thoughts.
Yeah, first of all is we have to put more efforts in eradicating the eradication of poverty, because with poverty still out there, work harder, then I think people will be able to appreciate what we have and to sustain what we have. Of course, the issues that are mentioned in the Constitution, the fundamental principles have to be enforced, and issues of pluralism, political pluralism, has to be enforced. Democracy, democratic governance, rule of law, those are I think, the things that people of Rwanda really need much. Of course, I don't want to forget issue of security.
Yes.
We have to support our men in uniform to make sure that they still safeguard us from all all types of attacks. Now we have even new attacks from the space, from cyber, from what, but also have those physical attacks from different countries and so on.
The pandemics.
Yeah, so we have to have maximum security for our country, and we have to support our men in uniform. Of course, I mentioned before, I will take this opportunity to mention it, that the government should put more efforts to increase salaries for our soldiers and our policemen and all men in security, because our soldiers have this army shop, the police, so I think the teachers deserve also to have that. So, I mean, all these things, if we put them we put them together, they will help us to sustain our country, our development, and our liberation. And then we'll be sure that our grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren will live in a secure country. Thank you very much.
MP Frank Habineza, President of Democratic Green Party of Rwanda, and an opposition political organization operating here in Rwanda. MP Francisca Tengera, Member of Parliament, and also a member of the ruling RPF in Otanyi. Of course, I had Jacques Aigamba joining us from London, a consultant in human Rights and Development. I want to thank you so much for joining us. And of course, I cannot thank you enough for you who have been watching us from wherever you are in Rwanda and all over the world. You know, the discussion just began, and we'll be having these discussions on a regular basis on looking at how far we've come as a nation, where we are and where we want to go in terms of liberating ourselves, not militarily or picking up the arms and fight, but also liberating our minds, our ideas, and everything that we need to liberate and to move forward as a nation. I want to thank you so much, and of course, on behalf of the entire team that has helped me to put this together, including my director, Shema. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ethan Tashubia. Until next time, bye for now.